Ladies and gentlemen, this one will stir your soul. What if I told you that women carry pleasures so deep, so quietly hidden, that most men will never know they exist? These aren't the things she posts, or even admits to her best friend. They're the secret desires that shape how she loves, connects, and protects her heart. By the end of this video, you'll see the female mind in a way you've never imagined before. So don't just watch casually, listen with your heart, feel the truth in every word, and discover what women silently crave but will never say out loud. Comment below where you're watching from, and let's see how far this message travels. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-shifting truths every week. You see, one of the most fascinating truths about women is how deeply they value the experience of being desired. Not in the shallow, ego-driven way people often assume, but in the quiet, emotional way that validates their presence in the world. There's a certain pleasure in being noticed, not for what she shows, but for what she is. A woman can walk into a room, say nothing, and still sense when the energy shifts, when eyes follow, when admiration lingers unspoken. And though she may not acknowledge it, there's a deep private satisfaction that comes from that awareness. It's the affirmation that her essence, her energy, her femininity, they still hold power. Most men misunderstand this. They think women crave attention because they want to be admired physically. But that's only the surface. The truth is, women find pleasure in the recognition of their being, in being seen beyond the physical form, felt beyond the surface, understood without having to explain themselves. When a man's eyes linger not with lust but with awe, when his attention carries respect rather than entitlement, it awakens something profoundly validating. It tells her, you exist, you matter, you're worth noticing. That, right there, is one of her secret pleasures. This quiet desire goes back to something ancient, the human need to be witnessed. Women, by nature, connect through emotion and resonance. They want to feel felt, to be desired, not in a transactional way, but in a spiritual sense, where presence meets appreciation, where energy meets acknowledgement. It's not always about attraction. Sometimes it's about remembrance, the kind of subtle recognition that says, I see the woman you are, not just the body you're in. Yet, she will never say this aloud. Why? Because society has conditioned her to equate being desired with being objectified. She has learned that expressing joy in being admired could make her appear vain or shallow, so she hides it. She masks that secret delight behind a calm face, behind a polite smile, behind professionalism or confidence. But inside, she feels it. The invisible warmth of being acknowledged, of knowing that her presence leaves an imprint. This hidden pleasure also speaks to a woman's deep connection to her sense of worth. Desire, for her, is not simply about attraction. It's about affirmation. It tells her that she still holds influence, still evokes emotion, still stirs something powerful in another, and that realization feeds her confidence in a very subtle, almost sacred way. Even in the smallest gestures, a man who straightens up when she enters a room, or someone who listens a little more intently when she speaks. These moments whisper to her, you matter. But here's the complexity. The same woman who enjoys being desired also fears it. She wants to be admired, yet she's careful not to appear like she seeks it. She enjoys attention, but only when it feels earned and genuine. The paradox itself gives her a quiet thrill. The dance between revealing and withholding, between being seen and staying mysterious. It's not manipulation, it's balance. It's her way of protecting her emotional energy while still engaging with the world. And in that tension lies another truth. When a woman is desired respectfully, she becomes more radiant. She doesn't need to be told she's beautiful. She simply feels it through energy, through presence, through the way a man carries himself around her. Because what she truly desires is not words, but awareness. Not flattery, but focus. When a man's attention is steady, intentional, and honest, it mirrors back her inner strength. It affirms her feminine power, not as an object, but as a force. That's why the most powerful kind of desire is silent. It doesn't demand, it doesn't chase, it acknowledges. It allows her to feel safe enough to embrace her own magnetism. When a woman senses that she's admired without being consumed, she blossoms. That's the paradox of feminine energy, the pleasure of being desired while still being free. You'll notice, too, that this hidden pleasure has nothing to do with vanity. It's deeply psychological. For many women, feeling desired activates a part of the psyche that reminds them they're alive, that they can inspire emotion, thought, even action. It's a reminder that they're not invisible in a world that often overlooks them. Desire, in its purest form, becomes a mirror reflecting her vitality. And when that recognition comes from a place of respect, it empowers her. This is why so many women remember the way someone once looked at them, not because of the compliment, but because of how that look made them feel. It wasn't about attraction. It was about acknowledgement. The pleasure was never in the gaze itself, but in what it represented: connection, presence, energy exchanged without a word. And here's where the psychology runs deep. Women often use this hidden pleasure as quiet motivation. It fuels their confidence, their creativity, even their self-image. It's the invisible boost that reminds them they're still capable of moving hearts, of stirring something in others, without even trying. She may never confess it, but she cherishes that silent influence. So the next time you see a woman who seems composed, confident, and self-assured, understand this. Beneath that calm exterior lies a quiet awareness of her own impact. She knows she's seen, even when she pretends not to. She senses the energy around her, and part of her secretly enjoys it. It's not arrogance, it's affirmation. It's the secret pleasure of simply being desired, without needing to perform, without needing to prove anything, without needing to ask. And that perhaps is the greatest power of all, to be desired not for what you do, but for who you are. To be seen, felt, and remembered, even in silence. Because at the end of the day, every woman, no matter how independent, how strong, how self-contained, finds a quiet joy in knowing she still moves the world, simply by being herself. There's another secret pleasure women carry, and it's far more subtle than most men ever realize. It's the quiet joy of emotional influence. Not manipulation, not control in the harsh sense, but a deeper kind of emotional intelligence. The ability to shape energy, tone, and connection within an interaction. Women find an unspoken satisfaction in being emotionally aware, in reading between the lines, in knowing what someone feels even when words fail. It's a kind of intuitive power, invisible yet undeniable. You see, women are naturally wired to connect emotionally. Their minds don't just process facts. They process feelings, patterns, subtleties, and through this sensitivity they discover a sense of purpose. The ability to understand what others can't even articulate. When she senses tension in a man's voice, when she detects sadness in his silence, when she can tell he's pretending to be fine but isn't, that awareness gives her meaning. It's her way of being tuned in to the emotional undercurrents that most people ignore. And whether she admits it or not, there's pleasure in that, the quiet fulfillment of knowing she understands the emotional map better than anyone else in the room. Now, this isn't about dominance, it's about emotional artistry. A woman finds deep satisfaction in influencing how someone feels, not by demanding change, but by inspiring it. When she comforts a man without saying much, when she softens his anger with calm presence, when she helps him open up without pushing too hard, she experiences something profound. That's her form of power. The ability to transform tension into connection, chaos into calm, distance into trust. And often she hides this pleasure because the world misunderstands it. Society labels it as manipulation or oversensitivity, when in truth, it's emotional mastery. Think about it. Men often measure power in control, controlling outcomes, situations, or results. But women, in their quiet wisdom, measure it in influence, in their ability to guide emotion without force, to move energy without noise. This is the emotional dance she plays without ever announcing it. She can shift the entire mood of a conversation with a single expression, a well-timed pause, or the softness in her tone. That's not chance, that's precision, that's power exercised through empathy. And it's not something she learns, it's something she is. From a young age, girls are conditioned to read emotions, to respond, to empathize. Over time, that becomes instinct. A language of emotional awareness so refined that it almost feels psychic. She doesn't just hear words, she hears the truth behind them. She doesn't just see actions, she sees the emotion that fuels them. And whether she uses that to comfort, to motivate, or to protect herself, it gives her an undeniable sense of control in a world that often tries to silence her. But here's the paradox. Women often downplay this ability. They hide their emotional intelligence because they fear it will make them seem too intense or too perceptive. Yet beneath the surface, there's a quiet pride. She knows she can read someone's intentions without them ever saying a word. She knows she can sense dishonesty in tone, feel sincerity in energy. That awareness gives her an edge that most people don't even notice. It's not arrogance. It's intuition sharpened by experience. There's also a deeper philosophical layer to this. To influence someone emotionally is to connect with their humanity. It's to step into another's world without intrusion, to shift their energy through compassion rather than force. Women understand this balance instinctively, that real influence doesn't require control, it requires presence. It's not about changing someone's mind, it's about touching their heart. That's why a woman's empathy can heal, why her silence can calm, why her energy can shift a room. Her emotional influence isn't loud, it's magnetic. And when a man truly experiences this, he feels it. He may not be able to explain why he opens up more around her, why he feels safer, why he becomes more vulnerable, but it's because she creates that space. She directs the emotional current of the moment, subtly guiding the interaction toward connection. That's the invisible pleasure she experiences, knowing she can reach someone deeply without having to control them. Now, this influence can be used both ways, for light or for shadow. When it's used with compassion, it heals. When it's used with ego, it manipulates. That's why emotionally mature women are careful with this gift. They understand that emotional power is sacred. It can build or break, inspire or wound. The real pleasure, then, comes not from wielding it, but from mastering it, from knowing she can influence without losing integrity. And perhaps what makes this secret pleasure so intriguing is how often it goes unnoticed. The world sees her kindness, her calm, her emotional depth, but it rarely understands the strength behind it. The woman who can shift someone's emotional state without raising her voice, without demanding attention, holds a form of power that doesn't need validation. She influences not through dominance, but through depth, not through control, but through awareness. And that's what makes her unforgettable. People might forget her words, but they'll always remember how she made them feel. Because she didn't just speak to their mind, she spoke to their emotional core. That is the kind of power that leaves a mark long after the moment has passed. So, when we say women have secret pleasures, understand this. One of the greatest is knowing she can touch lives without being seen as trying. It's the invisible satisfaction of being emotionally attuned, intuitively aware, and quietly influential. It's knowing that her calm presence can disarm tension, her empathy can inspire honesty, and her depth can awaken something real in someone else. And maybe that's the most powerful form of connection there is, influencing not through words or actions, but through energy. Because the woman who understands emotion understands the human spirit. And the one who can move emotions without force doesn't just hold influence, she holds grace. That's the kind of woman the world remembers, even in her silence. There's another pleasure women rarely admit to: the quiet thrill of mystery, the satisfaction of being hard to read, of keeping her emotions behind a veil just thick enough that you can sense depth but never fully grasp it. It's not deceit, it's design. Women find a strange comfort in knowing that a man is drawn to understand them, to figure them out, to reach into their emotional layers, yet can't quite get there. That sense of mystery becomes her invisible shield and her silent weapon. It's both her protection and her power. You see, in a world that constantly demands openness and explanation, mystery allows a woman to reclaim control. When she doesn't reveal everything, her thoughts, her desires, her emotions, she creates a boundary that says, "You don't get to own my inner world unless you've earned that privilege." And there's immense pleasure in that restraint. She knows that curiosity is the heartbeat of attraction. The moment everything is revealed, fascination dies. So she keeps a part of herself unspoken, not to manipulate, but to maintain her value, her aura, her self-respect. Most men mistake this for emotional distance. They think she's playing hard to get, when in reality she's protecting her essence. A woman's mystery isn't about playing games. It's about preserving energy. She knows that her depth loses meaning when given away too freely. The ability to hold something back, a thought, a smile, a truth, is how she sustains emotional power. And deep down, she takes pleasure in knowing that a man must work to understand her, to earn her trust, to peel back her layers one by one. Think about it. When a woman becomes an open book too soon, she risks being taken for granted. But when she reveals herself gradually, she commands interest. Mystery creates magnetism. It draws people in without effort. The unspoken becomes the most powerful communication. A glance that says more than a sentence. A pause that creates tension. A smile that hides 1,000 thoughts. That's the language of mystery. And women have mastered it without even trying. And there's psychology behind this. Humans are wired to crave what they can't easily define. We chase what eludes us because the unknown triggers fascination. Women intuitively understand this. They know that mystery keeps the dynamic alive. It keeps them from being predictable, from being reduced to a single dimension. So even when she trusts a man deeply, she'll never reveal everything. There will always be a corner of her soul reserved for herself. That secrecy isn't about deceit, it's about sovereignty, the pleasure of knowing that no matter how close someone gets, she still belongs to herself. Women also find satisfaction in how mystery changes perception. When she's not easily read, she's not easily judged. People project onto her what they want to believe, and that projection becomes part of her allure. She can move through the world with quiet control, knowing that she decides what version of herself to show and when. There's beauty in that power, the power to be seen, yet not fully known, to be desired, yet emotionally untouchable. But let's go deeper. The pleasure of mystery also lies in contrast, in the balance between revealing and concealing. Every woman understands that too much transparency kills intrigue, but too much distance kills connection. So she dances between both, showing just enough to invite pursuit, but keeping enough to preserve her dignity. This is not manipulation. It's the rhythm of emotional intelligence. It's how she keeps connections sacred instead of casual. A mysterious woman doesn't chase attention, because she knows attention will chase her. Her stillness becomes magnetic. Her silence becomes powerful. She doesn't have to speak loudly to be heard. People lean in to catch every word, every glance, every shift in tone. The more she holds back, the more value her expression carries. That's the essence of feminine energy. Subtle, but deeply commanding. And the irony is, she takes great pleasure in this restraint. There's a private satisfaction in knowing she's unpredictable. She might share her thoughts today and guard them tomorrow. She might show warmth in one moment and distance in the next, not because she's inconsistent, but because she's complex. Her mystery keeps people engaged, guessing, curious. It allows her to remain in control of her emotional exposure in a world that often tries to take it from her. Many men say they want transparency, but what they truly crave is the emotional chase, the discovery, the unfolding. And women know this intuitively. That's why the most captivating ones never rush to explain themselves. They allow silence to do the work. They understand that revelation is more powerful when it's earned, not offered. Her mystery forces others to slow down, to pay attention, to listen between the lines. That's how she separates those who seek connection from those who seek convenience. Philosophically, mystery is her rebellion against a world that equates exposure with authenticity. She doesn't need to bare her soul to be real. She doesn't need to overshare to be genuine. Her mystery is her boundary, a declaration that says, my emotions are mine, my story is mine, you can witness me, but you don't get to possess me. That's where her strength lives, not in what she reveals, but in what she withholds with grace. And yet within that same mystery lies her vulnerability, because the moment she chooses to reveal herself, even slightly, it means something. When she opens up, when she lets someone in, it's not casual, it's sacred. Mystery gives meaning to revelation. It ensures that when she finally says, "This is who I am," those words carry weight. So yes, women find pleasure in being mysterious. But that mystery is not about confusion. It's about depth. It's not about withholding love. It's about giving it wisely. It's not about creating distance. It's about creating value. Because when she remains slightly out of reach, she's not hiding. She's reminding you that her essence is not something to be taken lightly. And perhaps that's the real secret. Her mystery is not a mask. It's her truth expressed in layers. The parts you can't see are often the most beautiful, the most sacred, the most human. So when a woman chooses to stay a mystery, understand, she's not trying to make you chase her. She's teaching you how to appreciate her. Because in a world obsessed with exposure, the woman who remains mysterious doesn't just hold attention, she holds power.